Hello everyone, episode 14, today with Indianapolis Colts. And for them, it's kind of like from flying under the radar to actually breaching top speed limits. Because I would say Colts are one of the, I can say best run franchises because their owner, let's say, it's interesting. But in terms of general manager of this team, in terms of coaches, and in terms of approach that they have, I really like what the Colts are cooking here. And kind of unfortunately, or maybe for like that's what they are waiting for, I would say they will get recognition for this season. And it's not like because of this show, like I would love to be in that spot to change people's opinion on Colts, but I'm not. But I would say with Anthony Richardson, it's going to be super hard to fly under the radar because that guy is electric. So, what are the Colts this season? How did their draft went? And what's their limits? What's their upside? And how are they stacking up to essentially win a Super Bowl? Well, let's find out, shall we? So, we start with a draft. And I would say that Colts really went and had one of the best drafts out of every team. And it starts with Latu. Well, with him, first of all, it's really super hard to not like when you have your pick, because this was the first defensive player that came off the board. When this is the case, like it's really hard to not, be super happy for that team because that's 15, like 14 players went before this guy. So when you have your pick, I must say, like it's really hard to miss on this guy, and I think Latu has really good chances to not be a miss. Though I would say the general public is slightly down on this pick. Well, why? I'm not. Well, I think this guy has really legit upside to be amazing starter for them. Like I truly believe that that's what this guy can do, and he already, I think, comes up as a guy that should be available to play this season and not be a problem for you. So that's obviously good. Like, does he necessarily have like Max Crosby, Myles Garrett in him? That's where I'm like, probably not. But can he be, I don't know, like what people thought about Josh Allen before last season? Josh Allen from Jaguars, Montez Sweat, like these type of players. Yeah, I would say that's definitely the upside for this guy. One problem, perhaps, or one area of concern about this pick is they don't need him in a way because their age group is quite talented, ridiculously deep, and the thought would be like, why are you bringing this guy to a group that already is quite nice, has incredible depth, has some developing pieces, so why bring another one to this? Especially when there was a guy like Byron Murphy who was available at this point. As a Seahawks fan, I'm really not going to, be bitching about having Byron Murphy over Latu. But with Byron Murphy, what he provides to you is interior run defense option that you just don't have beside Grover Stewart. And if there was one area of the field last year that Colts were like kind of unexpectedly bad at, it was actually their run defense. And it was almost clear that without Grover Stewart out there, who was injured for a couple of games, as well as a nose tackle, he just cannot play every single snap of the game. Like the stamina for that is almost unhuman. They struggled. So with Byron Murphy out there, it would be like, well, now we have three pieces with the first Buckner that we can rotate given the situation that we need them on, and we are actually really good at. So I think Byron Murphy would improve their defensive line as of right now more than Latu does. Yet I'm really high on this pick. Why? Because to me, this signals that they are not all in on the season. They are like, well, this is second year of Anthony Richardson. He barely played in NFL because of injury. We have several areas of the field, especially secondary, that there is just a lot of talent, but a lot of question marks. Like that talent is unproven, or like just proven just a little bit. So this is not the year for us that we really need to go for it, and we are taking a guy that we believe has an upside to be, like I said, somewhere about Montez Sweat, quite early in his career, and we just don't feel that we have a similar guy in terms of our edge room, and we feel like we definitely need him. And if that's the case for Latu, and you have him, Samson Ebukam, hopefully coming back from injury, and other pieces like Dio Rainbow, etc., with Roman Stewart, with DeForest Wagner, actually with quite a nice pool of defensive tackles that will emerge from college next season, well, now you're cooking. So they are confident that they took the best defensive lineman of this draft, and I have really no problem with that statement. So to me, I like this pick and I like that thinking, because while I would say Byron Murphy would make this team better as of right now, though with Samson Ebukam injury it's kind of gets twisted there, because they need Latu much more than they did before. I do like this approach. And then I really like Adonai Mitchell as a pick. And I would say I am not alone, like when you see me general public having the same grade on this one. I expected him to really be out with that second tier of wide receivers coming off the board from 25th to like 35 picks. You know, some guy that those high-end teams would pick, someone like Chiefs, though they went for Worthy. Perhaps even someone like Ravens. Perhaps even Bucks. Like, I did expect, or obviously Bills could be another case. Like, I really thought that that's what this guy is, and getting him like kind of middle of the second round is absolute steal. There is a little bit of concerns with, is he necessarily the best professional? There were some reports that maybe that's not necessarily the case, and also his production, like, he just didn't play that many games in college and didn't get that many targets, but boy oh boy, his speed is an absolute weapon, and he has a frame to be successful in more areas of the field than just being a deep threat and really that speedy guy. So man, I think he steps in, he will be playing this year, and I expect big things from Adonai Mitchell, and I absolutely love this pick. He is really a guy that has an upside to be even better than what Michael Pittman is for this team. And taking swing on this guy later in the second round, not having to move up for him, oh man, you have to be happy as a Colts fan. Then Matt Gonzalez, and here, like, hear me out. You might see my logic is flawed, and you know I might not disagree with you, but Matt Gonzalez, I really thought like is 5th round talent prospect, and they took him like this super high. And you say, where's your D? Like, Matty, where's your D? Like, that's supposed to be a D, right? Well, it's supposed to be, but my logic behind this is, when there's someone I did not necessarily like studied super hard, and a team that I really trust with like their draft selection, and they pick him so super early, like if they like it might sound ridiculous to you, right? I would understand you, like if they picked him like 4th round, you know, like just a round later, I might have a lower grade on him, you know. But the thing is, I actually like when it's such a reach, in my opinion, like, or towards where I expected this guy to go, I'm like trusting my opinion much less, and I'm like, yeah, I probably didn't see something or didn't read something, because that's just a super reach, And in that case, I'm kind of giving up my opinion, swinging it more around my trust into this team's prospect. I still like C+. It's not that I'm going to give this an A. Like, obviously they know better than me. No. And you say you should stick to your analysis. Yes, I think you should do that 99% of the time. But when there's like a huge outlier that, and that like happens, I'm like, okay, I'm really cool with just being wrong on this one and saying, okay, because they picked him so high, I actually think this is a better pick than I would if they did it like a round later. And like kind of a saving grace of this one is like they for a long time I think went with an approach that our offensive line 5 will be healthy, and if not, it's going to be a problem. I like that they are finally addressing that. So with that being said, they done this with Tyron Bartolini, and like you might say, oh my god, this guy is a Colts fan. Well, I'm not, I'm a Seahawks fan, thanks for asking. But why I do like Tyron Bartolini's pick here is he is a really nasty physical guy that will help, especially in terms of run blocking for this team. And I would say that's what they want to do. So and also like Matt Gonzalez is kind of in the same area. Like I do trust that if you put those guys out there, they will probably suck with their pass protection year one, and perhaps even later in the career they won't be anything plus in terms of pass protection. But their frames should allow you to run the ball, and that's what you want to do as Colts, as we will check on that later. So I really like the fit for what this team is good at and wants to be perhaps even the best at with Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Gold, Jalen Carlis, Jalen Simpson, Micah Abraham, Jonah Howe. I have nothing special to say about these guys, so let's move from them. And let's move towards the offensive side of the ball. That's led by Shane Steichen. And what a hire it was for the Colts last year. I mean, even my B+ grade kind of sounds low on him, and I do expect him to move up to an A- tier, like very early in the season, and even to an A, like when the season ends, because I think he's really one of the premium young offensive mind head coach that is able to elevate this team. And again, like one, I wouldn't say mind-boggling thing with the Colts, but when we were talking, or when we will be talking about the Packers and like how the world like kind of loves Jordan Love, I will repeat myself. Seahawks beating Steelers, you don't have Packers in the playoffs, you don't see him like shitting on the Cowboys, and the discussion is really at least slightly different. And somehow, some way, nobody kind of says like, well, Colts were actually one very simple play that was botched by their QB and their wide receiver Gardner Minshew, and I'm not really certain who was the guy that dropped that easy pass at this point, like you know me and my names. They were that play away from reaching the playoffs, knocking down the Texans, and nobody really talks about Colts that much. I'm like, what? And that was with Gardner Minshew. It was not with the quarterback of choice for Shane Steichen. It was not with Anthony Richardson that he chosen to run this system. It was with Gardner Minshew, and he needed to adapt because Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew are quite a different QBs in terms of what they can do with their physicality. So he was really, really good last year, and I do expect him to continue with that. And I think Colts are really set with him going forward. But what he has to work with? Well, we started with Anthony Richardson as a QB. And obviously, this is a guy that we still don't know who he is. Like, the range of outcome for him is, well, he will never be an accurate passer of the ball. He will always just be an absolute physical monster and incredible dual threat, but it's more going to be as the rushing threat than a passing threat. And that's definitely quite a possible outcome for him. His, like, so far, the sample size for him does not speak very highly about his accuracy. At the same time, he has cannon for an arm, so he can swing it. And this is something that you can work on. Like, maybe it will never click, like it kind of never did with Cam Newton. But it doesn't matter that you cannot have like the Superman year when everything kind of goes right. Your physicality and your running approach is taking you to highest levels. The talent is around you, and you can actually win a Super Bowl or close. So, like, he can be like a limited version of Cam Newton in terms of this, and you are waiting for that one season where everything clicks. But I think his potential is even better. Like, no offense to Cam Newton, but his accuracy never picked up. Like, he was just never an accurate QB, and in modern NFL, like, it's super hard to be very, very successful without that. Like, Lamar Jackson understood it, Jalen Hurts kind of understands that, like, obviously Josh Allen understands that, and he has potential to be as good as these guys, if not better. Like, I would say the sky is literally the limit for Anthony Richardson. I don't say this phrase very often, like this is probably the first time in 14 episodes in season 2, but that's the limit. But there is still really a lot of flaws that, how likely is that he will reach that limit? We just don't know, man. Like, sample size is just not there. And I just hope that after this season we will be, first, much closer to answering this question, and second, we get to enjoy, like, the nastiness, the absolute joy that this guy has, really running over people, proving that he is a superior athlete, and I'm just excited about this Colts offense because of Anthony Richardson and some other things that we will talk about. But as of right now, he is one of the worst passing QB in the league, while being one of the best in terms of rushing. But, well, you kind of need that passing part in modern days NFL. One last thing about Anthony Richardson, and where it's like you want him to play with a swagger, you want him to play with kind of domination, that he believes that he can outrun you, he can out-wrestle you in a way, no matter if you are a cornerback or even defensive tackle. But at the same time, he needs to learn that he has to preserve his body. So it needs to be the mix, like still playing with that swagger, but avoiding unnecessary hits. Like, one of his concussions that he got last season was absolutely stupid and on him. So hopefully he will learn from that. Like, on him in terms of if he just ran full speed, there was no way he would get a collision that actually landed him on his head and with problems. So I'm excited. I think everybody should be, but it doesn't necessarily have to turn out to be something great. Then with Joe Flacco, I'm really not like, why Joe Flacco? Like, it felt like you could have picked a guy that's much closer to what Anthony Richardson is. Joe Flacco and mobility was never a thing, and like in his father time age, it's not going to be. It's like, again, even this move, which like a backup QB should not matter that much, right? Kind of signals to me, well, we want a mentor for Anthony Richardson. Perhaps, especially in terms of like his like risk-taking, deep ball ability, etc. We want to put him in the room with a guy that's done it all, won it all, and it's not necessarily about the fit if Anthony Richardson goes down for our offense, because I just don't see that with Joe Flacco. Like, you will have to pivot from what you want to do with Anthony Richardson towards what you can do with Joe Flacco. So, maybe Shane Steichen likes his challenges, but as of right now, I would say this is not a great signing for like current roster and what they want to do. But in terms of mentorship and for development of Anthony Richardson, it might just be what you are looking for. Now let's talk about running backs, and we have to start obviously with Jonathan Taylor. First, because he's so good, and second, there's really no one behind him, like really good. So, bit of an area of concern. Is this a spot for like perhaps trying to trade for like Khalil Herbert from Bears. Yeah, I would say that if, like again, they believe that Trey Sermon has a certain upside, so again, this approach shows to me like they are not all in on this season, but if the things go very well and they're like 5-2, 6-2 before trade deadline, I would expect them to make calls for a second running back. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor and leave this room. So Jonathan Taylor used to be an elite starter for me. Last like 2 seasons were really not exceptional from him. You can point it out to, well, the O-line, what has been more shaky than perhaps you would expect it, especially like 2022. He had contract disputes, he had dealt with injuries, but even when he was out there and like you did expect that he's healthy, he was not necessarily his like 2021 self. It's hard to be. Like that player was absolutely exceptional. He was like easily top 3 running back that year and possibly the best one. He was really outrageously good. It's still in him, I believe so. I would say this was the first off-season that he could approach with kind of a clear head. He get at least some money and he should be clear from injuries. I would say he should be absolutely excited to be a part of running game designed by Shane Steichen and run by Anthony Richardson. I'm super excited as well. So Jonathan, please be what you were like 2021 and let's just roll. Let's move towards the wide receiver core. And it's good, but it's definitely not something special. And in this in this year, I would say it's slightly under average group for the Colts. And still, it's really good one. Like Michael Pittman, again, ideally he has a complement that is at least as good as him or hopefully even better. He can do a lot of things, but as a strictly your best wide receiver, you are not talking about even like top 20 is probably where I would like reach, because there are simply said better wide receiver number ones for a lot of the teams. But he gets the job done. He absolutely deserved the money he got. The Colts really approach this offseason like we will go on and sign our talent back to our roster. We will pay them, but not necessarily overpay them. Like they let them test the market, and then pretty much all of them came back and was like, yeah, we like it here. Let's settle. So Michael Pittman is back. He is great for what they want from him. He's not necessarily a guy that like strikes fear into opposition secondary. Adonai Mitchell, we already talked about him. If there's one player that can like overcome Michael Pittman, I would say it's Adonai Mitchell. Though you can say maybe it's Josh Downs because, well, he really had a very good season last year, and given how how young he is, there is I would say how to phrase it. There is huge belief that, well, while we are not something special as of right now, with Josh Downs entering his second year after being drafted 79 overall, with Adonai Mitchell being a steal that we believe, and with Michael Pittman being kind of that rock solid, really good option for what we have, well, watch us. This could be really nice room down the line. With Alec Pierce, first of all, I have to apologize. He should not have been named a good starter, but just a decent one. I have some troubles with Photoshop, so I couldn't really change that. So my apology. It's going to be the same for one more player that I wanted to change before talking about him. Alec Pierce, I still trust in his talent. I think he could be utilized better with Anthony Richardson and even with Joe Flacco, with their deep ball abilities. He needs to come down more with catches, like you see, 32 receptions for 540 yards. That's nasty. That's wild. that's his game, right? Like, if you are making completion to Alec Pierce, it's rarely like less than 10 yards. So you have Anthony Richardson with absolute cannon for an arm, and you have that guy that was really exceptional deep threat. But can he come down with balls? And can he kind of resurrect his career? Because so far he just did not look apart for what you expected of him. So I'm sorry for like mistaking him. I would say that even drafting Adonai Mitchell kind of says that maybe they are not necessarily down with Alec Pierce, but they definitely want to challenge him in a way. But 4 guys, 3 of them, you should still expect to grow, especially if Adonai Mitchell enters downs, and you hope with Alec Pierce. And you have your guy, Michael Pittman, to be really solid option no matter what. While as of current ability, which is what we are ranking these guys, I don't have like super high opinions on them. Will I be surprised if in 2 years we are going to sit here and saying, boy oh boy, the Colts have top 3 wide receiver trio in the league? I will not. Let's move to tight ends. That's another guy where with Will Mallory he should just be a good backup, not a decent starter. Again, my apology. They have 4 tight ends that kind of they can use, and given that one of the like biggest area that they want to threaten the opposition is running the ball, having several tight end buddies that can block decently well, I would say is important. There is one guy who is not here, who is hopefully the best, or not hopefully, he's probably the only like high upside tight end prospect that you have on the roster, and that's Jelani Woods. Why he's not here? He unfortunately, because of the injury, missed the whole season last year. So like you would not be seeing pretty much anything in terms of his rankings here. I was thinking about like putting his 2022 numbers up there, but I'm like, well, let's just roll with him, mention him here, and you have 3 buddies that are not evaluating this room, but they will get the job done. And then Jelani Woods, if he can be what he was in 2022, you are talking about tight end with really nice upside. He is huge. He has like freakishly big body in terms of he is a presence out there. Like you won't miss him on the field. But can his body sustain that amount of mass? That really abnormal human construction? That's kind of the question with him, much more than like his talent. So you cross your fingers and you hope for Jelani Woods to emerge as healthy. That's what you need. The talent is there. But also, if I would rank him right now, he would be a decent starter as well. Let's move to the offensive linemen, and this is one of the best in the league. I will challenge you if you will say they are the best, because I have my opinion that there's really one line that to me is above the others. Give me your take in the comments. Who do you believe? I believe is the best line in the league. But with Colts, you are super happy about this group. Like, let's face it, Brandon Ryman, he's still improving. He definitely has an amazing starter in his future, in my opinion. Braden Smith, rock solid right tackle, top 7 duo of tackles in the league easily. And with Matt Gonsalves and Blake Freeland, you have certainty in a way with Blake Freeland, like certainty in terms of like he's been here, he has played, but do you really want to play him? No. Like even with him, the good backup sounds a little bit too much, and it's probably too much even for like Matt Gonsalves. I trust in those players in a way, but as of their current ability, it seems a bit rich. They were really on the edge of like just putting them into solid backup category. They stayed here because like Blake was out there and it wasn't like super shit show. Like it was bad, but like playing as just a good backup for the whole season, this is kind of adequately bad for this ranking, right? It's not 1 game, 2 games. Like, he was out there for 701 snaps. That's hard, right? That's really, really hard. And he, to a degree, stood his ground. With Matt Gonzalez, like, as again, like, the good backup is, I would say, mostly, I just believe them much more than I believe myself on specifically this guy. And then we go towards interior, and that is your one weakling for this offensive line. That's Will Fries. But he is very close to being a decent starter. And if you have one problem on your defensive line, and that one problem is like someone who would still be starting for another 5 to 10 teams, like, you know, like, or at least would be definitely competing for starting right guard job, I'm like, yeah, that's still a good situation for this team. On the other part of that trio, you have Quentin Nelson. Not necessarily the best guard in the NFL, which he was like flirting with 2 or 3 years ago, but still absolute beast in terms of run blocking, though his numbers from last season are not exceptional, and really, really good pass blocking guard. Top 5 in the league, in my opinion. Guy you are super happy to have. And then you also have about top, like, okay, let's make it safe, top 10 in terms of center for Ryan Kelly. Like, what do you want me to say? He's great. Like, he is. You have 4 guys that are positive, net positive for your team, and like would start for, you know, perhaps like from these 4 guys, only like Bernard Raimann would probably start for just about 15 teams in the league, just because there are so many great left tackles. And you would probably pick him over another 5 because he still has potential to be better than what he is right now. So really exceptional offensive line. About top 5 in the league, I would say, is absolutely out there for him. Even top 3, I will not have a problem to put them in. I just don't think they are the best. Let me know who you think is. When you talk about this offense, let's just check it with Shane Steichen here. As you can see, in terms of run blocking, this is really exceptional line. Pass blocking is slightly worse, but overall one of the best lines in the league. And in terms of weaponry, I have really big split between passing and running. And you might be, well, their weaponry is kind of good. Why E+ for the passing? And it's like, well, current ability for everyone on that side of the ball is unproven in terms of Anthony Richardson, and it's in development in terms of Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, and it's kind of like lusters in terms of their tight ends, and it's really not even something special with Jonathan Taylor. So, am I scared as a secondary with them past throwing the ball? Like, no. As of right now, no. Can I be scared down the stretch? Like, it's really all about Anthony Richardson, about the development of those 2 or maybe 3 wide receivers. Will I be surprised if there is, let's say, B- at the end of the season? I wouldn't. But as of right now, I just think you cannot give them super benefit of the doubt that this is going to work absolutely, because there is so many question marks, and from what we've seen, I really do judge them like this. And that's where maybe for next year the weaponry will just be about players with the exception of QB, so you had more realistic view of how I view only wide receivers, tight ends and running backs. For this group, it would be something like a C-, D+, because again, like, you don't have anything special with Jonathan Taylor's hands. In terms of tight ends, you have below average room, and even below average room in terms of wide receivers as of right now. So that's where I like. But with running, Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, how can you go anywhere else but an A for this duo? Overall, this offense has extreme potential, and it should be super fun to watch, especially if you are enjoying running game. This is one of the 3 offenses I will be certain to watch for running game. And I'm super happy that we finally, kind of after a couple of years, it feels like, get to see exceptional dual threat QB, especially in terms of his running, meshed with amazing to elite running back Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Like, I cannot wait to watch that. But let's shift towards defense. With Gus Bradley, I think he's not an exceptional defensive coordinator, but he gets the job done. Like, not really many bad words about him, but do I expect him to be great innovator? No, like he kind of plays the same style over and over again, which has its merit because guys know what to expect of him. They can develop in the system, especially with Colts when the continuity for this team they really like to resign their own. That has its merit because you are obviously going to get better and better when you play the system all over again. But it's something that can be picked apart sometimes. What he has to work with? Let's find out. So with the defensive line, I needed to come down with the ratings because of Samson Ebukam. No career, unfortunately, not career-ending injury, but year-ending injury. I have him, so you see what they are missing. Like, they are missing their best HPs in Samson Ebukam. Fortunately for them, they have several other guys to step in. We already talked about Latu. You have Dio Odeyingbo, you have Taquan Lewis, and you have Quitty Pye, who I think is the second best for them. So they essentially, with Samson Ebukam, had 5 players that, even in ideal world, are like your number 4s and better. And in normal situation, you are kind of happy to have them as even your number 3s. The only problem with that group was, well, we don't believe we have anyone with the potential to be that true game changer, that true wrecking ball for the offensive line. And that's where Latu comes in. They trusted this in him. They need him to have a better, perhaps, rookie season. He's going to be thrown out there, perhaps towards more snaps than they expected. But in terms of his development, and again, in terms of, well, we don't necessarily treat this as the year that we need to be great. It's fine, and it might even speed up Latu's development. With Odeyingbo, Taquan Lewis, and Quitty Pye, the guy that I expect to not necessarily pick up where Samson Ebukam left, but where I still see some potential to like improve his ranking. I would say it's probably Quitty Pye, where he had really nice season and he was kind of the shining beacon of hope for this running defense because it was really exceptional from him. But it's only as much as you can do from an edge point. Let's go towards interior, and Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner is one of the best interior duo in the league. And well, when I just look at these 2 or even 3 guys, it feels like disrespect that I have Grover Stewart just a tier above Raekwon Davis because he is much better player. Like, he is 2 tiers above Raekwon Davis. Yet, that's sometimes when clusters work this way, because if Raekwon Davis is really close to just be a good backup for me, and Grover Stewart is really just a tiny piece from important starter for me, I can confidently say that they are at least 2 tiers apart, yet I'm appearing just 1 tier apart. So that's where, if I have like this take on some of the grades, I need to share them with you, so you are not like saying, well, you think Grover Stewart is just slightly better than Raekwon Davis? No, really I don't. But that's just how cluster and like tiers work for you. Let's start with DeForest Buckner. No, okay, let's start with Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner combined, because this 2 is not necessarily a match made in heaven, but very close to it. For DeForest Buckner, he is an exceptional pass rusher, one of the top 5 in terms of just the pure pass rushing from interior. He's really exceptional. Like, especially in modern NFL, I would say even a guy like DeForest Buckner is helping the guard market to like blossom and boom in a way as it did this offseason, because they prove that they can legit blow up your game plan when you just don't have good enough protection for interior. Because from the edge, you can kind of sidestep some of the pressure, even from the best guys. But if the guy is little in your face, like in a second, you just cannot really do that. So I would say every guard should really send a thank you note towards the first backner and guys like him, despite they are obviously pain in the ass for them. But guys like him are the reason you are making more money. So, well, what do you want to say about that? With Grover Stewart, he is one of the best player that can be a nose tackle, that can really eat up the double teams. And he's really nice complement to the first backner, where his run defense is, let's say, lackluster, but also you just don't want him to defend run that hard, because you want him to rush the passer, right? You want him to save his stamina for that. So this combination is really exceptional, but it comes with a problem, and that problem is depth. Raekwon Davis, whom they signed, I think he's solid enough player, but like I said, he's really close to just be a good backup, and he doesn't necessarily strike me like a guy that if you put out there, he will necessarily be noticed for his run defense. And that's what they struggle with, especially when Grover Stewart went and was injured for a couple of games. And also, his position is extremely stamina demanding. You need to substitute him for at least a couple of plays every game. So, not having backups for that's where we already talked Latu or Byron Murphy. It feels like a risk. It feels like kind of a glaring hole for this team. But again, when you are not, treating this as win or bust season, you can have these holes. You can put some players I'm not gonna say his first name. It's hard enough to say even his second. Adebawore out there, who is much more of the first backner replacement. He has some pass rush moves. You may watch him develop, but yeah, as of right now, exceptional duo, problem with backups. Let's go towards the linebacker room, and I'm not going to spend much time here because this just feel like well put together linebacker room that is not a problem for you, but won't elevate your team. You have Zaire Franklin, good enough starter. In AJ Speed, good enough second best linebacker. In Ronnie Harrison, you have your quite nice backup. So it makes sense, this room. Linebackers are just not the position that will make or break the team. So if there is some where you are okay-ish with your good starter being actually the best you have, it's probably linebackers at this point in this modern NFL. It kind of sucks because you would want to see more exciting players there. These are just the players that will get the job done, but won't elevate you and are slight negative, but in terms of linebackers, you definitely take that. So I don't want to really spend that much time on these guys because it feels like not even teams actually are you can get the job done, you are playing well, we will give you some decent enough contract, but we are not really striving to have necessarily Fred Warners out there. It just doesn't feel like teams are even necessarily striving for this. And now let's go and find out another wild factor for this team next to Anthony Richardson, and that's the secondary. Because as of right now, it's bottom 5, let's say bottom 7 at their best secondary in the league. The safeties here, Julian Blackman, I'm okay with him starting, but Nick Ross and Ronald Thomas really are not guys that should be out there with others in a normal situation, let's say, but especially with Nick Ross, you want to see what you have in him. So he will probably be starting next to Julian Blackman, and in Roddy Thomas you have nice enough backup that has played, was not a complete turnstile, did have some nice games. He is what he is. He won't improve, and I just don't think he will even reach decent starter status in his career. But as a third safety, you can definitely live with that. Julian Blackman is your number 2, which you can also live by. And with Nick Ross, you just hope that he can develop. And he showed some nice flashes last season. And again, they are in a mood. We kind of secured our core in this offseason. We went with a lot of free agents on the roster. We've managed to pretty much bring all of them back, not crippling our finances during the process for sure. And we have a lot of really interesting young pieces that we want to give playing time. So, do we mind that there are a liability as of right now? Well, not necessarily. So that's the case for Nick Ross, and it's even more case for their cornerback room, because they have one guy that is proven, that is, I would say, actually by far the best player of the secondary. Unfortunately, he is not an outside corner, so he's not really the guy that's going to be out there preventing Tyreek Hill to score 50-yard touchdown on you anymore. He's going to play as a slot. Don't push him to play anything else, especially because it seems like you have a plan for those other positions. But he is really good. Probably close to top 5, top 7 slot cornerbacks in the league, and you are absolutely happy to have him back. And then you have Jalen Simpson, Juju Brents, and I don't have Jalen Jones here, which is a mistake, and I'm sorry for that. Jalen Jones should definitely be on this screen, but let's talk about Juju Brents and let's talk about Jalen Johnson, and even for Jalen Simpson. So Juju Brents and Jalen Jones, as of right now, they should be starters for this team, and they are both year 2, year 3 type of players that this team just have, let's say, huge expectation of. And they're like, well, okay, we go for, let's say, trial by combat. We'll put you up there, and there is not a pressure on you as well as there is a pressure on you, right? Because when I said there is no pressure for you, it's like we don't expect you to be top dogs right now. Like, we don't treat this as win or die season. At the same time, like, you are getting an opportunity. Can you take it? That's not a small ask, right, for second year players. They are both second year. You also have Dallas Flower, who is also not on here, but is a guy that potentially could step in if one of these guys are really poor. But you have your opportunity. You kind of have in Kenny Moore, let's say, a stabilizing element that won't necessarily help you with that outside problems. But there is nice enough pass rush for this team, so it's not like you should be on an island for several seconds. There should be reasonable pass rush for this team. And we just will see what you are, guys. What are you made of? You are being thrown to the wolves. Let's see if you can fight. You are literally being thrown into the ocean. Show us that you can swim. And do I believe for both of these guys it's duality? I definitely think that they can emerge as not exceptional pair of outside corners, but as two guys that if you call them 1 or 2 on your team, you are not losing sleep over that. So with that, it's kind of an end for the roster deep dive of this team. And I must say, I really like this roster. The way they are thinking, the way they approach the draft, the way they approach the offseason. If it's not clear from what I was talking, I'm really impressed by the job that they have done. Now let's talk about the floor and upside for this team. I would say the floor is around 6 wins, because Shane Steichen is really good even to pivot, even if Anthony Richardson goes down, which unfortunately you would have to say that it's not in the unlikely territory for me, which is like for 90% he will stay healthy. I don't think that's the case for Anthony Richardson. I think there's more than 10% chance that he will miss at least like half of the season with the style he plays with and with his body build and like what he has on the field. So unfortunately, I think that's the reality. And I think even in the case 6 wins should be floor for this team, because that offensive line, even the defensive line, is really good. And with coach like Shane Steichen, what he showed last season with Gardner Minshew, well, Gardner Minshew is a better QB than Joe Flacco, but also like with Gardner Minshew they were flirting with playoffs, right? So 6 wins is really not close to that. So 6 wins is the floor, and what is the upside? I'm not surprised that this is the team that I will have one of the biggest difference between floor and upside, because I will say that upside is 12 wins. I'm going to go there and say it's 12 wins. I was thinking more of 11, but I have to say it's 12, because if Anthony Richardson hits, which I believe is really nice chance, and we see, I would say, like above average, but not necessarily like stupid in terms of like stupidly good improvement for young guys. You have several of them that are starting. If they will just improve on a slightly above normal rate from what you're expecting of them, like Juju Brents, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, Jalen Jones, Anthony Richardson, obviously, Latu. If they just improve above average, I think you're talking about really, really good team. You might say, well, what about the division? The division is super, super tough. Well, it's really tough. I wouldn't say it's the best division in football as of right now. And as well, I'm not sure that either of this team is equipped to the really high highs of this offense. I'm not sure either Texans, nor Jaguars, nor the Titans can handle this offense when it reaches like 80% of its potential. And I think that's within the realm of possibility for this year. Or like 80% of like this year's potential. Like obviously I'm not talking 2 years down the stretch, Adonai Mitchell is a superstar, Josh Downs is a superstar. No, I'm talking about Anthony Richardson is important starter, Adonai Mitchell is good, Josh Downs is important starter, and Jonathan Taylor comes back to his elite level. So I think that's like hitting 80% of the upside for the season. And I'm not sure how those teams are equipped to handle it. So I would not be surprised or shocked at all if they go 5-1 in this division, if everything hits. But not like you see me, like you know what I'm talking about in terms of a reasonable realm of possibility for this team. So it's 12 wins. What I expect of them, I think they're going to be nasty. They will fight. They will run the goddamn ball. You won't be like. For some teams, the offenses are not happy to play those teams. I would say defense will absolutely hate playing the Colts because it's going to be physically incredibly demanding. Do I see them making playoffs? Like obviously, with my upside, I think they are well equipped to do that. But I wouldn't say they are like more than 50% likely to actually reach the playoffs even. So when I'm talking about the floor and upside, I would say it's more pushed towards that 7-8 win mark rather than 10 and 11. Like I would say they kind of have like this almost similar chances to like reach 10, 11 or 12 wins. And it's like small chances but still within that 90% interval rather than like 6, 7, 8 and something like that. If you would have to ask me like what I believe is going to be their number, what's like the most likely amount of wins they will get this season? I would say 8, because I think there are several holes on this team, and with Anthony Richardson, you just don't know. But they should be really fun team to watch, and I cannot wait to watch them. How are they stood up in terms of their road to Super Bowl? I think really, really well. The things that they are doing absolutely make sense. They are putting young players out there to have use of them as they are on rookie contract. They want to see what sticks with them. And they know with Anthony Richardson, if he hits, we have 3 more years of this for, let's say, cheap. And for that time frame, they are working with the rest of the team, whereas cornerbacks who are entering their second year, well, if they hit, we have 2 more years of them, like 2025, 2026 season. I think that's where this team is really focusing their attention, while actually being quite nice as of right now. So in terms of how are they set up to win Super Bowl in their next 3 or even 5 years, because I really feel like they are really set up well ahead, they would be flirting with that top 10, somewhere around that. And you might say, well, you are talking about it like they are super well, proven, and they will reach the upside, and then you say like only top 10. I'm like, well, like it's almost impossible to win a Super Bowl unless you have, at least amazing quarterback. Like when was the last time that it happened? So they have this big of a question mark with Anthony Richardson, if he can be that guy. I trust that he can. I think the rest of the lineup will be set up for him. If he reaches the upside, they will be Super Bowl contenders. But, he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Joe Burrow, he's not Josh Allen, he's not Lamar Jackson. Like, even if you just put this, like, those are 4 teams that you just cannot say that in 3 or 5 years they won't be Super Bowl contenders just because of these guys, because they are super good. And then it's like several other teams that you trust in. It's like hard to be even better than top 10, Like I would say, as of right now, it's super hard to say that it's not going to be Texans with CJ Stroud, who showed to be almost on that level even year 1. It's really hard to say it's not Packers with Jordan Love. It's really hard to say that the Bears are not equipped to be those contenders within the 3 or 5 years with Caleb Williams and the trust that everyone has in him. So there's already like 7 teams. So it's hard out there. It's really, really hard, but they can be out there if Anthony Richardson hits. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know what you think. Are you as excited as me to watch really nice run games this season with mobile QBs and elite running backs next to them? Let me know. Thank you for listening. See you with the next one. It's going to be Seahawks. Let's enjoy this one. Bye bye.